Can you help me understand the term bondslave stated in verse number 1? If we are sons, how can the Apostle Paul call himself a bondslave?
Well, being a son actually gives you an opportunity to be a bondslave. Now, remember, bondslave is different than being a slave. A slave is someone that is owned by another. But what the Apostle Paul said was that along with my sonship that I have with you, I am actually committing myself to you for my life. And I am going to be a slave to your desires for the rest of my existence. And he chooses to do that. Becoming a bondslave toward the Lord is a choice. He, as a son, did not have to do that. Jesus did not have to do that. He did it by choice. The Apostle Paul did not have to do that. He did it by choice. And so being a slave and being a bondslave are actually two different things. A bondslave is a choice. Slavery is not a choice.
And that ultimately comes down to what you were talking about, lordship and savior, correct? Is really seeing him as a Lord over your life?
Well, when we have made a huge error that is going to be rectified. It may not necessarily be fixed in our lifetimes, but it will be fixed. And that error that we have created is that we've gone through the attempt at a two-step process, that one would be a savior and one would be a Lord. And I want to encourage everyone to begin to do some reading of some Christians that were previous to your Christianity. Go back 50, go back 100 years. Begin to read somebody's book and take a look and see what nature of character that these people believed that it took in order to be a believer. And you will see that the Christianity that you and I have grown up underneath, that Christianity may not necessarily be the way that God had what God had in mind from the beginning. When you look over the apostolic fathers, the Nicene, ante-Nicene fathers, you begin to look throughout history. You begin to see the individuals that lost their life because of their faith. And what we're trying to do is to make sure that we don't lose our job and the kids have shoes and my spouse is happy. But I believe that all of those things would be true if, in fact, that we would choose to surrender to the Lord. I had a conversation with a minister today over an issue that was somewhat similar, and he brought this up. And when he brought it up, I thought, well, that's kind of interesting that someone else actually would be talking about some of these things. And when he brought it up, he told me that he was reading the works of Charles Wesley. And I mentioned to him, I said, I don't know if you knew this, but Charles Wesley would never really even think that a person was too much of a Christian that didn't fast 2 days a week. If they didn't fast a couple days a week, then he didn't even think, that they had any kind of relationship with God, or they weren't serious about that relationship with the Lord at all. And you can tell most often that we need a strong dose of really surrendering our lives to the Lord, because the moment that you do, you'll really find out who you are, and you'll choose to be a bondslave and not just a child.